Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It is Mike here once again. Hello, how are we? Hope you're good. This is my Everything Bookish video for August 2019. A fairly successful bookish month, I feel. I'm going to start by talking about the books that I have read this month. Let's just do that. That seems to be the pattern right now. So the first book that I finished reading was Stone Cold Heart by Kaz Freer, and you know I'm loving the Kat Kinsella novels. Kat is a detective in London. She's Irish, but she's in London, and this book is about a murder of an Australian girl who moves to London, and she's kind of taking some time to find herself and grow up, and she gets murdered. Ideal. And Kat is called to investigate, and the web of suspects and people around her is quite big. Very interesting. There's a family at the heart of the kind of conspiracy, and Kat investigates, and she's dealing with her own sort of her own mental family who are in the background, and her life and her love life. And there's a really nice balance actually in this book of whodunit and a kind of a murder of an innocent person, and this kind of family, Kat's development as a character and her life. It's moving forward, and you know from my previous videos that I really like this book, and I do highly recommend it actually. And when I said in my last video, or last couple of videos, that I thought I knew who did it, and I was sort of right. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but just for the record, I was sort of right, because I thought it could have been one person, then I thought it could have been this other person, then I thought maybe it's all a red herring and it's this other person, or maybe it's these other two people, and I kind of got there myself, but not exactly how it happened, but actually finding out was really fun, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm eagerly awaiting the next Kat Kinsella novel, which I know that Kaz is working on right now. Good luck, Kaz. I hope it's going well. I can't wait. I really enjoyed this and I want more. So please go buy this. Try this. If you like a bit of a thriller or a police detective novel, it's one of those ones that kind of takes it in real time and you go through the whole process. This is your bad boy. That's the first one. The next book that I read, now then, you might have watched my currently reading and vlog video that I put up in the middle of August, and this was about this book by Ruth Ware. This is The Death of Mrs. Westaway, and I really enjoyed it. After reading Stone Cold Heart, I was really keen to carry on in the thriller genre, but I didn't know whether I wanted another kind of detective crime investigation novel like that, like a police drama. I wasn't sure I wanted that, so I picked up this novel, and I from the minute I started reading this book, I was enthralled. The beginning of this book is a diary entry from 1994, and I love a diary entry in a book, and it just sucked me in completely, and I just read it actually really quickly. I was really engaged by the main character, Harriet. And Harriet is a fortune teller, tarot reader in Brighton, and she works on the pier, and she has a little stall, but she's found herself quite alone at a quite not a nice time in her life. Her mum has died, and left her with the flat and the business, and she's doing her best, but she's had to take some loans out from some loan sharks because she was desperate, and now is the time they want their money back, and she hasn't got it, and her house is in a bit of disrepair, and she's just sort of feeling quite low. And then this letter arrives from a solicitor saying that she's coming to some inheritance because her grandmother has just passed away, and Harriet's a bit confused because she thought her grandmother had passed away a long time ago, so she feels like this might be someone's got the name wrong, but her name is Harriet Westaway, you know, it's not very common a name, so she thinks maybe wouldn't it be lovely if it was true, and so she decides to go down against her better judgment really. She goes down to Cornwall, and she goes to the funeral of this lady who they think is her grandmother, and because she reads these tarot cards and she reads people really well, she's convinced that even if it isn't true, there might be a little bit of money in it, and she's desperate, so she kind of goes for it. And I really got on well with Harriet, and truth be told, I would love to read more books with Harriet as the central character. I would really like that. Ruth Ware, feel free. And the mystery of the book, obviously the story, that all happens in kind of the first couple of chapters, and then this book takes you on a twisty journey of this big complicated family in a big complicated Gothic house which doesn't have central heating, and it feels very kind of back in the day, and I just loved it. I cannot recommend this enough, and I really am enjoying Ruth Ware as a writer. I've loved, I think, 3 of her books now. I really enjoy her, and I loved the mystery, and I loved the conclusion of this book, but no spoilers. Just trust me, if you like a bit of a thriller, you'll enjoy this. Oh, it's very therapeutic just throwing them onto the bed. The next book I read was How to Be Famous by Caitlin Moran. Guys, it is absolutely horrific here today. Ooh, it's me peering through my blinds. But it's okay. I have this for company. Now this book, this is a purple version of the book. The normal version is blue. This purple one is an exclusive one from WH Smith's. And it was on offer, so I got it from WH Smith's, I think last month. And I bought it because I read the back and I thought, okay, this sounds interesting. So it's about a character called Joanna, and she is a music journalist in the early 90s. She lives in Camden and she's writing for a magazine, and essentially she meets a comedian, an up-and-coming male comedian, and they sort of hit it off, and she has a sexual encounter with him, and this is a turning point in her life, and her life sort of spirals a bit from this encounter with this guy. And this guy is a bit of a dickwad. That's how I would describe him. And I read this book. I don't want to spoil it for you guys because it's quite a different book for me to read. It doesn't have that kind of that rolling story, that kind of whodunit, the big mystery where you're just captivated and you want to turn the page and turn the page, turn the page. This is very much about the character of Joanna and empowerment and women being strong and not taking any shit off anyone. And that is a really good message, and I really enjoyed it. The beauty of this book and about Joanna as a character is she is hilarious. I was creased, howling, laughing out loud throughout this book. There are some things that she says, thinks, or does that genuinely had me weeping. I just found it really funny, and I was reading the odd sentence out to my friend Jess. I was voice noting her on WhatsApp, being like, listen to this, and I would read a bit of a passage, and it was just so funny. It was just so funny. I felt the need to share the writing in this book and some of the attitudes in this book, and it really was a brilliant read. In terms of the kind of story, not a kind of, like I said, not a big whodunit. It was very much about Joanna kind of coming into herself and dealing with a few difficult situations and finding herself to wanting a new career. And it was kind of like reading, like the equivalent of how I felt watching The Devil Wears Prada the first time is how I felt reading this. I haven't read The Devil Wears Prada, but I love the film, and that is how I felt when I was reading this, that Joanna was just really fierce and I want her to be my best friend. So if you are Joanna, please get in touch because you have a ready-made best friend right here. She is fantastic, and Caitlin Moran's writing is really unique, and I really enjoyed it. So I do highly recommend this. And I got to the end, I wasn't picking it up all the time and being like, I sometimes go a day without reading it and think, oh, I've got to read that, I've got to read my book, come on, I've got to pick it up. But whenever I did pick it up, I was captivated, but I wasn't like itching to pick it up all the time. I think it was just because it was on the back end of reading those books where I needed to find out who did it. And this book doesn't have that kind of narrative, but it is just brilliant. I can really see it being a film. There's a big nostalgia fest going on at the minute for the 90s, and I feel like this would like suit cinema really well, and I can see it happening. I really can see it happening. It's great, I loved it. It was fab. Some really good reads there, guys. So those are the books that I have read in August. Now we're moving on to the books that I have bought in August.